Oh, crap. Welcome back for Nightmares. It's Queen Nightmare. I have no idea what that intro was, but I'm going to keep it because it's natural and I'm a mess, so there we go. I hope you liked the Dreary and Pansy story I just read the other day. With the big collab with the person. Here's the Snarry one, though. Don't know why that came out of order, but it did. We're doing Embarrassment, and we are on chapter, I think, 17, if I'm correct. No. The Aftermath. No. 15. No. I did that already. So it's 18.
This is how fast YouTube is with Brave.
I'm sorry, my YouTube just went off on my computer. Okay, chapter 18. Ugh, Harry moaned as he closed his eyes again. At least the dizziness seemed to slow when his eyes were closed. "You all right, Harry?" Steve asked from beside him. "Yeah, just got a bit dizzy," he whispered, not wanting to concern his friends. "That's pretty normal after the bonding test. Just let us know if it gets worse, okay?" Steve said gently, patting Harry's leg in a friendly way. Yeah, not like a, hoochie mama, you know what I mean? That was one thing Harry missed about being with his clan. They were a big family, and a family who were loyal and protective. The guards did their job because they feel like they were born to protect. Whereas others have their jobs because we have the talents required. Okay, Harry said, resting his head on Steve's shoulder. Sure, he wasn't going to be told to move his head anytime soon. After a while, the group got bored, and some of them decided that it was a perfect day to go for a swim, much to the amusement of the vampires. Draco led the three others that wanted to go for a swim towards the lake. James followed close to him with Crab and Goyle, taking their time wandering down to the lake. Pansy laughed as she watched them mucking around and splashing and decided to join them after all. So it was just Theodore, Blaze, Harry, and the four vampires. So, Harry, looking forward to the holidays? The holidays? They seem forever away. Forever away, don't they? Mimi asked, trying to make some type of conversation with the rest of the group. Apart from the fact that my house took some damage in the storm, yeah, can't wait, Harry said honestly, not looking forward to the cleanup. How long do we have left, Theo, Blaze? I'm around, oh gosh, Theodore stuttered, lost on time. 3 weeks. Blaze saved Theodore from his embarrassing slip. Don't worry, I've got your back, he said, winking. Oh, hush you, Theodore said, lightly reaching over and slapping Blaze on the arm. You two are adorable. You would make a great couple, yeah. Great couple, cooed Mimi. Harry rolled his eyes and chuckled, while the rest laughed at Theodore's blush and Blaze's widened eyes. Have you met our friend Pansy? Blaze asked once he recovered. You two would get along great, he cooed back at Mimi. That had the seven in tears, unable to help it. Do you require help, Harry? Steve asked, remembering that Harry had said about his house. Nah, I think I can handle it, but if I do need it, I know how to contact you, Harry responded. Good, Steve said. Good, Harry repeated. Good, Mimi shouted, excited over this game that they've always played. Once someone said good, you had to take it in turns to say good until two people said it at the same time. Good, Steve said next. Good, said Johnny said after a few seconds of silence. Good, Clark said quietly. Good, Harry and Mimi said at the same time, and the five of them laughed while Blaze and Theodore looked on with a confused expression. It's a game. Harry then went on to explain to the two of them. To pass the time, they played a few rounds of it, and the games seemed to last pretty long. So it was much of a surprise when Harry gathered everyone up. They all went to the Great Hall for lunch. Xavier stopped by to talk with Harry for a few minutes before he went up and to sit next to Severus. Who was slowly drinking his goblet of blood. Can we go somewhere else instead of outside? Pansy inquired, immediately looking at Draco. Draco thought about it for a bit before deciding on what they were to hang for the remainder of the time, until dinner. How about we go to the astronomy tower? We could show these guys. Draco nodded his head to the vampires. Around the castle, on our way up there, and then we could relax on some beanbags. The group seemed to nod, happy with what Draco had thought of. Lunch went by with more talk of the holidays coming up. They tried to make plans of what they wanted to happen. Sorry, my alarm went off, so this is... Okay. Ouch. The group seemed to nod, happy with Draco with what Draco had thought of. Lunch went by with more talk of the holidays coming up. They tried to make plans of what they wanted to happen over the holidays, and most of the plans ended up being either at Harry or Draco's places because they could hold the most people. After lunch, the group slowly walked through the corridors, showing the vampires the important history of Hogwarts. They were impressed with the history of Hogwarts that it seemed to have, but they half expected that, considering how old the castle actually was. Eventually, they made it to the astronomy tower and piled in, taking places on the beanbags spread around the room. Harry conjured a see-through tarp to hang over their head, so that he and the vampires didn't have to worry about being burnt. Conversation turned quickly to Henry, and so without as much as a flick of a wrist, Harry had Henry in his lap. Just like last time. Harry put a barrier around the group and allowed Henry to waddle around. Oh. Okay, that hurt. Harry also summoned two bowls, one of water and the other with Henry's food, for when he got hungry later. The day went by with laughter, blushing, squealing, mainly from Mimi, Pansy, and surprisingly, Draco. And even a few tears were shed, although the tears were because the group decided to play Mercy at one point, which Harry was pretty proud to boast at how good he was at the game. The sky began to darken, and Harry realized that tomorrow he would be going to class for the first time as a bonded vampire. As he got lost in thoughts similar to these, Harry missed the fact that the group were getting up and moving the beanbags back to the sides of the room instead of the middle. If it wasn't for Glart tapping his shoulder, Harry would have completely missed the group packing up and would have been oblivious to the world for who knows how long. Harry quickly put his beanbag to the side, and after patting Harry goodbye for now, sent the duckling and 2 bowls back to his home with the house elves. The group walked down to the great hall for Harry, and Harry enjoyed his last meal for what was going to be a while with his vampire friends. Xavier and the other 4 were to leave tonight, since Severus and him had no troubles with their bonding. Harry was going to miss his old friends and made sure to make the most of the meal, and this time together. As dessert was served for the rest of the school, Harry felt his stomach grumble and knew something was wrong. He turned to Mimi, who was sitting next to him, and explained what was happening. Xavier must have overheard because he was crouching down next to him in the next second. "Have you been dizzy today?" Harry nodded. "Have you had a headache?" Again, he nodded again. "Have you been bleeding at all?" Xavier questioned, and Harry tilted his head to one side, not understanding that question. Almost as on cue, blood dripped from his ear that was being tipped downwards. Harry stared, shocked, down at his arm where the blood droplets had landed. White in the face, he looked up at Xavier and opened his mouth to ask what was wrong. He never got the chance as the world spun and darkened. He remembered hearing multiple people shout his name and being grabbed as his body lost control and slipping from where he sat on the bench at the Slytherin table before everything went dark. Guess what, guys? I enter a fan fiction competition, and if you want to read it, leave a comment so I can PM you a link to it. I am so proud of the story. I would love to know if you would like to read it and maybe vote for it so I can win it. Hehehe. Okay, night. Or more like morning. Haha. I really need to stop writing so late/early in the morning. Vote, comment, and everything else I normally tell you to please do. Until next time, peace out, my chicken nuggets. Chapter 19. On the 14th of January, I received some devastating news. So this chapter was written... Oh. They made this in 2016. I forgot. I received some devastating news, so this chapter was written for the one and only Alan Rickman, or as I like to call him, Rickman of the Alan. What? Okay, cool. We honor you by raising our wands. I still raise my wand even though it's been days since I heard the news at 11 p.m. via text from my friend. You will be missed. This story has finally reached 15,000 views of the 13th of January 2016. I'm so proud and happy with this story. Couldn't have asked for more support from my readers. You, my chicken nuggets, are all amazing. Now on with the story. Sorry. You kind of like, you hear that, like that happens and you're not ready for it. You just forget how it impacted people. Harry started to wake up again after passing out to find he was carried somewhere. Groaning, he slowly opened his eyes and looked up at the person carrying him. "Where are you taking me, Glart?" Harry asked, feeling uncomfortable being carried by one of the strongest vampires he has met in his clan. It was almost scaring. What was it? Almost scaring how effortlessly he seemed to be moved down the stairs with Harry in his arms. Even for a vampire, he was stronger than normal. "To Severus's and yours chambers," he replied in a flat tone, carefully watching where he was stepping, not wanting to fall with Harry in his arms. Harry seemed to gather where they were, and it just so happened that they had taken a detour that would take them to Severus's chamber quicker. This corridor wasn't the easiest to walk through. Harry looked over Glart's shoulder to see Xavier, Severus, Mimi, Johnny, and Steve following them down as well. No one seemed to talk, but through the bond, Harry could feel that Severus really wanted to speak to him and make sure he's okay. He was okay. "I'm fine, Sevy," Harry said softly through their bond. He watched Severus's face closely, and the only giveaway of surprise was the slight lift of both eyebrows. "Good. You had me worried for a moment," Severus replied, watching where he was stepping, because the corridor had a lot of little holes and cracks in the ground. "I'm sure that I'll be fine and that it wasn't anything too serious," Harry replied nonchalantly. "Or it could be something serious and you might not be fine," Severus said, and glared at Harry for a moment before looking back at the ground at a particular bad section of cracks. "Whatever it is, we will deal with it in the best way possible," calmly soothed Harry, feeling the worry and stress from Severus's side of the bond. Severus didn't reply, but Harry felt him calm down. The rest of the journey was spent in silence, and Harry thought that Glart could have put him down since he was sure he could walk on his own again. They arrived outside of the portrait hole, and Severus said the password, letting everyone enter before and then closing it behind himself. Glart placed Harry on the couch gently and went and stood by the other three who were over near the fireplace. Harry looked over at Xavier, who was standing at the end of the couch near his feet. "What's wrong with me?" inquired Harry softly. Xavier tilted his head, eyebrows in a deep frown, which Harry noticed that he did whenever he had done something wrong or messed something up. "I have seemed to have forgotten to make sure to close the bond." "You dumbass!" Xavier said, I'm sorry, I lost it for a second. Xavier said, glancing at Severus and gesturing for him to sit on the couch as well. Xavier took a seat in Severus's usual chair, and Severus sat where Harry's feet were before. before he tickled the bottom of them to get them to move. "What does that mean?" Severus asked Harry's question for him. "It means that after you successfully woke up as a bonded couple, I was meant to let each of you have one mouthful of my blood to close the bond," Xavier explained. "It is why you have been getting headaches and passed out before, Harry." "Have you felt anything as of yet, Severus?" "I've had a headache on and off today, yes, but I haven't passed..." Severus's words were cut off as he promptly slumped back, his eyes rolling into his head. "Well, that answers your question," Harry chuckled, looking from Severus's face over to Xavier. "So, why do we experience these symptoms? Because we didn't have a mouthful of your blood to close? Is that why?" "Quite simply, really. Back when the calm was developing into its true powers, the king and the queen felt that they should control who had the blessings to bond and who didn't. They made sure that they closed the bonding with their own blood, to make sure no vampires tried to sneak a bond through the cracks. Do you understand?" Xavier asked, head to one side slightly. "Not really, but I'm sure I will one day," Harry replied honestly. He knew that the clan would make sure he understood everything as he became the king of the clan. The lord of the clan, actually. That was a scary thing for Harry. Severus moaned and sat up, rubbing his forehead with the back of the hand. Xavier got up and extended his arm to Severus, who took one slow mouthful of blood. His eyes rolled back, and Harry almost growled at the sight, but a sharp warning glance from Xavier stopped him from imitating his possessing nature. After Severus licked the wound shut, Xavier moved his arm to Harry as he could have a mouthful as well. Harry understood why Severus was reacting like that, but he himself didn't roll his eyes. He quickly licked the wound, and Xavier stood back, looking over at the four chatting quietly to each other. "We should go. Duty calls back at the castle. We have to keep intact." Xavier motioned for the others to join the conversation now. Harry stopped and gave hugs to all of his vampire friends. Mimi was the saddest one about having to leave. About having to leave. You are welcome to visit any time you wish." Xavier addressed both Harry and Severus, in which they both nodded in response. Final goodbyes were said before the 5 vampires disappeared through the portrait hole. Here, Harry and Severus were left to themselves. Harry laid next to Severus on the couch and closed his eyes, glad to finally be alone with his mate. "Do you want to go to bed?" Severus asked, and Harry shrugged. "I mean, I don't know if I could sleep straight away, but I could stay there and just to be in your arms." Harry smiled shyly before getting up and walking into the bedroom to get changed. Severus behind him. "You're too sweet." Severus smiled, tiredly getting under the covers and holding them up for Harry, which Harry got under a few seconds later. Harry curled up to Severus's chest and closed his eyes, not hearing the heartbeat, but he was completely fine with that. Instead, he listened to the other sounds throughout Hogwarts. Feet shuffling, claws scratching wood, mice squeaking, and howls hooting. It was fairly quiet for such a large castle. Severus had fallen asleep a while ago, and Harry yawned, hoping he wasn't too far away from sleep himself. His hope was fulfilled when his eyes drooped shut and he slipped into dreamland. We meet again! Wahahaha! It's like a minute after 3 a.m. I go to bed. I go bed. Too many anxiety issues and stresses to deal with right now. And that's why I didn't update. School starts back in a few days, so let's see how I go with juggling everything in my life. Please vote, leave a comment, please update soon. I try my hardest, and everything else I normally tell you. Peace out, my chicken nuggets. Chapter 20. How far along are we? Dang, I'm doing pretty good. Chapter 20. Getting ready to go home. After Xavier and the other vampires left Hogwarts, things seemed to be calm and steady. The weekdays passed by almost uneventfully, and the weekends spent socializing and doing schoolwork. Before everyone knew it, the school holidays were just days away. 3 days, in fact. It was a warm Wednesday afternoon, and classes had just finished. Harry and his friends made their way to the library to study for Transfiguration exam, taking place the following day. They chose a quiet spot towards the back of the giant library, not wanting to be too close to the ravens or the puffs that were crowding the main study tables. They got their books out and decided to test each other by asking questions about the subject, and then they all practiced spells. But everyone knew by heart the spells and questions surrounding the subject. So talk turned quickly to going back home for the 2-week holidays, instead starting this Friday night. Everyone was excited, and they all tried to figure out how many days they could probably catch up. Harry reminded everyone that he had to clean up his house from the storm. That Theodore would help speed up the process. The group glanced at Theodore and laughed when they saw him shaking his head while leaning back in his chair. He knew then that it was up to him to clean up the mess, not Theodore. The time went by quickly, and before they knew it, dinner time was looming closer and closer. The group, Draco, decided to pack up, take their bags back to their rooms before heading to dinner. Harry split off from everyone to go to his and Severus's room. When he went inside, he couldn't find Severus, so he decided to check through the bond. "Sev?" Harry quickly asked, not wanting to spook his man. "Yes." An equal quiet response came through a few minutes later. Harry breathed relief to get a response. "Where are you at?" Harry inquired. "You forgot to say R, Harry," snickered. "You don't have to. Where are you at?" Snickered Severus, which Harry laughed at as, "Oh my gosh, as well. I'm in my classroom marking." "Why?" "Just got to our chambers and couldn't sense you, that's all," shrugged Harry, walking out of their chambers and walked to the Slytherin dorms, where the rest of the seventh year Slytherins were waiting for him. Wait, seventh year? Aren't they just making up eighth year? We're waiting for him. "Okay, I'll see you at dinner," Severus replied a few minutes later, obviously taking a small break in marking. The Slytherins made their way up to the Great Hall, looking forward to their second last meal. At school for the term, they took their places at the table, and Harry smiled at Severus, who walked in a few minutes later. Dumbledore rose out of his seat once everyone was seated, and silence fell upon the students. "Well, students, we have 2 days remaining in this castle. This wonderful feast to enjoy together," cheerily spoke Dumbledore. "Let us come together as a school and celebrate what once was hard times. Enjoy." As Dumbledore took his seat again, plates stacked with large quantities of food appeared out of thin air. Children were gasping and laughing and yelling. These were the days Harry enjoyed most. Being happy and free, something that hadn't happened too much in his childhood. It was almost a perfect dinner, hadn't it been for the fact that the Gryffindors started an all-out food war with the other 3 houses. Then the teachers pitched in and made the food explode on the table to trick students into thinking it was their neighbor who had exploded the food. The Slytherins were the first to flip their table, so they had something protecting them while they weren't throwing food. The teachers soon followed but the remaining 3 houses used the tables for for other purposes. Harry watched as Hufflepuff slid down the slippery Gryffindor table to plant a slice of cake straight into a unsuspecting 4th-year Ravenclaw student. He also watched as a Ravenclaw jumped onto the chair and then onto a table with a bunch of food in her hands, only to begin to pegging said food as hard as she could towards the staff table. "This is madness," Severus growled through their bond. Harry smirked and formed a brilliant plan up in his head. Harry cast 2 spells on himself, a silent spell and notice me not charm. He grabbed a piece of cake and used his speed to run towards Severus, the massive piece, and slapped the massive piece of cake onto the potion professor's face. Harry canceled both spells and doubled over in laughter. He couldn't have imagined such a reaction quite like that. When Harry had hit Severus, he managed to land a cake on the right cheek with a splashed outward splatter, the rest of his face in little cake dots. Severus' eyes widened dramatically at this point. Harry thought they were about to pop out. Severus growled and grabbed a tart that had somehow not been smashed yet. Well, yet. Grabbing it, he smashed it on Harry's face while he was still doubled over laughing. Harry yelled and lunged forwards at Severus. They were both rolled around, smashing food on each other's faces. The best thing was the student population couldn't see them because of the giant teacher's table. They both stopped after a while, seeing the assistant teachers throwing food at the students. "Hey!" Draco shouted atop the noise. "I thought you were on our side!" Harry shook his head and threw an apple pie towards the blonde, but missed because he had ducked. But the pie had a massive display of dissembled itself as it hit the wall behind the blonde. The food became slower as the house elves grew tired of making food to supply the food war. Students began to notice and decided to watch the last few students try, but failed to defend the students' honor against the teachers and Harry. Once the last few troublemakers had finished up, Dumbledore stood up and used his magic to return the tables and chairs. The students all sat down again and looked up to the headmaster, still giggling with friends. "Now, enough fun for one night. It is time for bed. Students still have exams on tomorrow. And no, you will not miss it from an injury you may have gained tonight," he announced, to which many students groaned and slumped their way back to the dorms. Still covered in food, most students had expected Dumbledore to clear the mess up, but he had not done so. Harry walked back with Severus after assisting cleaning up the Great Hall with the rest of the teachers. They walked hand in hand in silence, comfortable silence. Once they reached their chambers, they washed and collapsed straight into bed, falling asleep swiftly after the massive food war. Okay, thanks for being patient with waiting for me to update. I enjoy writing this chapter, and I hope you enjoy reading it too. School is gonna be busy for me, so I'll try my best. Comment, vote, and everything else. Peace out, my chicken nuggets. Oi boy. Okay. Chapter 21. Home Sweet Home. Oh my lord. Yikes. Grumbled Draco as he and the rest of the group sat down on the chairs in the compartment. "Are you really going home?" We are, unfortunately," Pansy sighed from beside James, who was sitting next to Draco. Somehow the compartment was bigger and managed to fit all 7 of them inside. Harry decided to lie down on the floor and stare up at the ceiling out to the stars in the navy blue sky. Theodore was sitting beside Pansy, while Blaze, Crab, and Goyle all sat on the other seats. The train sped up as it started to pull out of the platform. The other students rushed past to find friends or groups of friends trying to find a compartment to sit together. After many people stopped outside of their compartment, Draco slammed the blind down to stop the gawking. Harry turned out after that. He found his eyes slowly drifting closed. The others in the compartment made sure not to be too loud, as Harry had not slept a wink last night because he had been too stressed. The train ride was quiet, yet enjoyable for everyone. Harry was shaken awake by Blaze as the train neared the station. It gave Harry just enough time to grab his trunk and wake himself up from the slumber he had been in. The train slowed down to a stop, and all the students could see the parents and siblings, relatives, and friends waiting on the platform for them. The group pushed and shoved their way into the platform. They all said a goodbye and stated how they couldn't wait until they got together on the holidays. Theodore and Harry stood and watched as their friends and the crowd started trickling out of off the platform to go back to their homes. Harry instructed Theodore to wait until everyone had gone. They ended up sitting on their trunks and chatted for a while to pass the time. After the platform had emptied to a few last people departing the train, Harry stood and held out his arm to Theodore. Theodore nodded and held onto his trunk while Harry did the same. Once Theodore had a firm grip on his arm, Harry operated both of them to a dark alleyway. Theodore looked around in concern. "Where are we?" Theodore whispered, not really feeling brave enough to raise his voice. "I cannot operate a stranger into my yard without keying them in, so I have operated us here to my local town area. I wanted to grab some food for dinner and breakfast, and possibly maybe even lunch. We have a lot of work to do," Harry answered, leading the way out of the alley into a street where friends and couples were walking around. It was fairly busy, considering how small the town was, but Harry explained that the folk of the town liked to socialize, unlike other places. Everyone knew someone, and funny enough, people recognized Harry, even though majority were all muggles. A straight walk, and they were dragging their trunks into a supermarket. Harry told Theodore to leave his trunk behind this counter, and explained after a suspicious look that the manager was a squab, and let Harry work here sometimes. After a little protest from Theodore, Harry started his quick rounds of food shopping. Theodore was actually surprisingly impressed at how quick his friend managed to gather all of the necessary items for the next few days and nights. Paying for them before grabbing their trunks, they were off and walking away from the town. "As soon as we are out of sight, we can shrink our trunks," Harry whispered, heading towards a quiet-looking road. Theodore nodded and sighed, not looking forward to the walk. But the walk didn't seem to be that long, and before they both knew it, they had arrived out at the front of a spacious land with a two-story house. It wasn't too fancy decorated, but it didn't look like a typical farmhouse. Although you could say otherwise, because the house had quite a lot of damage from the storm. Okay, sorry, there was an ad that played. Let's go on. Harry closed his eyes and used his magic to key Theodore into the list of people allowed access to his house. He opened his eyes and nodded and walked the path towards his home. He was finally home. Home sweet home. Author's note. Hey, school sucks this year. a lot of homework and assignments already. Can't wait for the next chapter. Peace out, chicken nuggets. That sucks, I guess. Chapter 22. Sorry. Work. As Harry stepped through the door, he breathed in a subtle scent of honey and strong scent of wood. Welcome to your home for the break. Harry walked in and stood in the middle of the parlor. He breathed in the smell of his home, closing his eyes, submerging his senses, and being home finally. The place doesn't look too bad for a place that got hit by a terrible storm. Theodore murmured sarcastically under his breath as he made his way next to Harry, turning in a slow circle to observe his home for the 2 weeks. The damage is now out the back and through the upper floor. Oh, and he said that the windows had been smashed and the wind had blown things into the pool, Harry said, walking towards the staircase on the left side of the room that would lead them to the second floor. You have a pool? Theodore said in amazement, not believing Harry could actually afford to maintain a pool. Yep, an inside, underground, massive pool, stated Harry, stopping to pick up a tree branch that rested at the top of the staircase. We better get to work. We can get to know you can get to know your way around the house by helping. Theodore sighed and pulled out his wand, preparing to pull his weight, but with cleaning up the house. Do you want to clean up here? I'll clean up. I will clean outside and the pool. Harry asked to make sure that he was all good to leave him to his own devices. Theodore nodded his head and went to pass Harry. Whatever you do, Harry grabbed Theodore's arm. Do not open that door. Harry raised his arm and pointed to the door at the very end of the hallway. The door handle rattled. A low growling sound flowed towards them. What? Theodore stammered in fear. It's probably like a wild animal. It's probably just a freaking gorilla. No, not gorilla. A squirrel. And it's making it look scarier than it is. He's like, I have to deal with it tonight, but whatever. Just don't open it. I will deal with it later tonight, Harry said as he made his way back down the stairs, walking out the big set of doors in the middle of the back wall. See you later. Theodore was left to his own devices as he used his magic to clear tree branches of all sizes and vanish vast amounts of water. He also removed scratches and marks from the walls. Then it was time to start on the roofs. He didn't know how long it had been, but as he started the first room, he was sweating profusely. Harry, on the other hand, had been removing items from the pool, vanishing rubbish and other stuff from his yard. A big task for such big land. The moon shone down upon the yard, letting little creatures blend in as much as possible. But with his vampire abilities, he could see all and hear all. It had been quite a while he had been working when he heard it. A snap, a growl. Then senses went on high alert. He was not alone, not out in his backyard. How much do you want to bet that they're werewolves? Like, there's a friend that turns into a werewolf that he has in the back room. So he locks it every so often so that he doesn't go ham on anyone else. That could be it. And then, like, this is like a friend, or Severus wanted to... That was not a fart, by the way. That was my... You see that? You hear that? That's my foot. I'm laying down when I read this. I shouldn't, because that's going to hurt my back. Or my side, which it did. Okay. Anyways. Actually, I like this position. I'm going to do it. Okay. Where was I? Author's note. Gonna leave it here. I'm going through some tough and rough stuff, and I must apologize for the shortness, the delayed time it took me to post this chapter. Vote, comment, etc., 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 etc. Sorry. Talk to you all next time. Peace out, my chicken nuggets. Chapter 23. I love that the person calls us chicken nuggets. Chapter 23. Old pal. I knew it. It was a recap. He was not alone out in his backyard. Yada, yada, yada. Heavy paws thudded on the ground as I'm sorry, the alarm went off. Heavy paws thudded on the ground as the growl got louder and louder. Harry turned around slowly, not fearful, but curiously. How much do you want to... if Severus is not dead after the war, then it could be just Padfoot, if you think about it. Or Lupin could be in the back room. Duh. It could have been him, because, But curiously, stalking towards him as a pure black panther. Oh, panther. Oh, my. Gray, stormy eyes, leaves crunching, twigs snapping, and birds flew away. The edges of the predator's snout frothed as it growled, and Gray's eyes stared Harry down. Harry pulled his wand out, ready for the duel he was about to endure with his old, or shall he say, young friend. You want to fight, Gerald? He shouted, taunting. You know what happened last time. The panther's ears flattened angrily as a sign that he was ready to battle. Harry moved closer and knelt to one knee, placing his wand back in his arm holster. Come at me, you little snot, shouted Harry in an evil grin on his face. With a loud growl, the panther ran at Harry and jumped in the air before he got on his older companion with paws outstretched in front of him. The panther landed on Harry and pushed him to the ground. How have you been, buddy? Harry laughed, rubbing the panther on the head roughly. Glad I'm home. The black fur began transforming into short black hair, and the heavy weight above Harry lessened as the frame of the panther grew smaller until a very young teenage boy was sitting on his chest. Harry! Gerald yelled, squeezing Harry's cheeks roughly. I may be small as a human, but I'm still a panther in my heart. Yeah. So you keep reminding me. Harry laughed, reaching up to ruffle Gerald's hair. You can help me clean up since you're here. My friend is upstairs cleaning, so the sooner I'm done here, the sooner I can help elsewhere in the house. Gerald nodded. I got off Harry's chest and rubbed his hands together before transforming back into a jet black panther and running around moving things into a pile to help Harry. After half an hour of teamwork, the pair had managed to clean quite a lot of the yard. More needed to be done further down the larger area. Harry rewarded Gerald's Gerald in his work by inviting his neighbor inside for a quick glass of water. That was when the two were sipping on their waters that they heard Theodore scream at the top of his lungs, then silence. Neither Harry nor Gerald reacted for a few seconds before they both ditched their glasses and ran upstairs to see why the young man was screaming. Harry arrived at the top of the stairs to see Theodore, who was unconscious, being dragged into the door at the end of the hallway before it slammed shut and locked itself. Harry screamed and ran at the door and banging his fist, twisting the knob, but nothing was working. Harry knew he was running out of time, so he closed his eyes with all his power and force the house to open the door to let him in. With the click of the door opening, Harry flung himself into the room and stopping as he saw the dark looming shadow hovering over Theodore's still unconscious body. Who the fuck is it? Is he like keeping Voldemort alive or something? What is going on? Or Bellatrix? Or what's going on? I need to know. Is it Lupin just going dark or something? Or Padfoot? I need to know these things. And yes, once again, a cliffhanger. I really do love you guys. XD. So that's it for this chapter. If you guys haven't already seen my message, but why I didn't upload it recently, please check it out. Hopefully I can get the next chapter up soon. Comment, vote, and everything else I tell you to do. Peace out, my chicken nugget. Chapter 24. So, stop Melon! Who's Melon? Oh my gosh. No! Okay, I don't know who Melon is. Maybe you guys remember who Melon is? I don't. The dark looming shadow reeled back and scrambled at the two other of the room, hissing and swearing loudly at Harry. You shall not harm him! Human meat! Human meat! Melon screamed, laughing insanely as he tried to make a move at Theodore again. The power of Christ compels you! Harry shouted, pointing a finger at Melon, and in a flash of white light, a barrier appeared to contain Melon. What the frig is this turning into? Is this The Conjuring? Oh my gosh. Contain Melon to the far right corner of the room. Help him, get him out of here. Harry grabbed Theodore's arms as Gerald grabbed his legs. They both lifted him up the ground and transported him out of the room, laying him down softly in the middle. With a growl, Harry marched back into the room and released the barrier from Melon. This human is not for you! He's a friend. Leave him alone or suffer the consequences. Harry growled before leaving the room with a yell and thrashing Melon. What was that? Even Gerald is like, what the frick is that? Look at shouting in a shocked. Gerald shouted in shock after Harry had closed the door and made his way over to kneel next to Theodore's head. He's a coot. I don't know what that is, answered Harry directly as he acioed a glass of water. You wouldn't have heard of them. Rarely any wizards have. It's a type of vampire that are deformed, almost like a genetic disability. How did he come to stay in your house? Asked Gerald quietly. Well, my clan was about to kill him because he was trying to murder everything that moved, excluding me, told Harry as he placed Theodore's head on his lap and begun slowly pouring some water into his mouth. As I was the only thing he wasn't trying to murder, I took responsibility of him. And I've learned that if I slowly introduce someone to him, he won't attack. Oh, was all Gerald said. Theodore woke with a gasp, and choked on a bit of water. He breathed deeply as he shook from the shock of being attacked by Melon. What was that? Theodore asked quietly, his throat now parched. Harry explained what Melon was and how he came into the house again. Theodore eventually stopped shaking and instead sipped on the water as Harry talked. So what are you saying is that I'm currently living in a house that holds an insane killing vampire? Confirmed Theodore. Yes, answered Harry simply. The three stood up and made their way down to the kitchen to eat and drink. Theodore, in the end, refused to finish cleaning the upstairs floor and left that task to Harry to do. That's a good choice, my dude. And that's it for this chapter. It's going to be a while until the next chapter is up. Vote, comment, and everything else I normally tell you to do. But for now, peace out, my chicken nuggets. Chapter 25. How good? Yeah, we're good. Chapter 25. This, the latest chapter is dedicated to all of you who have read this story. 20,000 views and counting. Holy shit. Damn. Anyways, sorry, let's keep on going. It's amazing. I want to thank each of you and who still read this story, even if I take forever to post the next chapter, or even if the content isn't good. Thank you all so much. At the end of their small meal, Harry and Gerald continued to clean up stairs, and Theodore went to the room he was staying in and placed his possessions around the room. What? Yeah, I said it right. Around the space, sorry. Not only half an hour later did the two have the entire upstairs area completely cleared from signs of damage done by the storm. Well, what happened? Harry sighed as the two walked downstairs and out into the backyard. Thank you for the help. I appreciate it these days. Gerald smiled politely before he stopped where he was. He frowned and started turning around in a small circle with his nose in the air, trying to place a new scent he could sense. Do you smell that? He asked, his voice low, eyebrows frowning deeper as he could almost smell the same scent coming from Harry. Harry sniffed at the air at first, not sure what the familiar smell was before his eyes lit up with excitement once he placed who it was. I know that smell from anywhere. It's Severus, Harry said. Sorry, I had an itch on my nose. Harry whispered, a big grin appearing on his face. He's waiting for me. Allow him to allow him past the wards. I haven't keyed him in yet. Whoops. Harry closed his eyes and connected his magic to the wards. He imagined that he was looking at a list of people's names as he opened up the wards for Severus. He opened his eyes. He saw Severus walking in his usual fast pace around the corner of the house to where Harry and Gerald were standing. Hey, Sevy. Harry smiled, glad that Severus was able to follow the directions that he had given him just before he had left Hogwarts. Easy trip? I took a wrong turn at one point. A faint blush appeared on his cheeks, and Harry thought it was his most adorable thing he had seen all that day. But I made it here, did I not? That's all that matters. Yes, it does. Harry laughed lightly as Severus wrapped an arm around him in a sideways hug. He left his arm over Harry's shoulder and placed a kiss on his forehead. Sev, this is Gerald. He lives next door to me. Severus outstretched his hand to the younger boy and shook it, both having firm grips. Gerald looked at Severus's eyes with a friendly sparkle, like Dumbledore had sometimes in his eyes during Harry's early years at Hogwarts. Found your mate? Gerald asked, glancing between the two. Yeah, he's perfect. Harry smiled up at Severus with a loving gaze, a wide smile on his face. Anyway, buddy, Harry looked back at Gerald. I'll let you go, and we'll catch up when the sun is up tomorrow. See ya, Gerald called as he waved and turned his back, jumping into the air and transforming into his Black Panther mid-air. Ready to see my home? Harry asked as he and Severus made their way inside. I am, Severus said with a sigh. Is everything all right, Severus? Harry stopped them at the bottom of the stairs and grabbed Severus's hands. Yes, I'm just really tired, that's all, answered Severus, pulling Harry into a hug. They stood there, moon shining down brightly on their intertwined forms, both of them bathed in each other's warmth and love and energy that seemed to seep from their skin. Harry sighed and pulled back, taking one of Severus's hands and leading him inside. We'll go say goodnight to Theodore before going to bed, then, Harry said as he pulled Severus up the staircase. The tour can wait until tomorrow. Severus chuckled deeply as Harry practically dragged his sore bones up the stairs and to where Theodore was apparently staying for the summer. After a knock on the door and getting an answer, Harry opened it up and stepped in slightly, allowing enough room for Severus to stand. Oh, okay. I thought Gerald was there too, because the next sentence kind of screwed with me a little bit. Severus to stand behind him in the doorway. Severus just arrived. Gerald just left, and now we are going to bed. Harry smiled kindly at Theodore, who was sitting in bed topless. Yeah, topless, cool. For a girl, I'm just like, yeah, because I'm thinking Theodore's a girl sometimes, and I'm like, whoops, Theodore's not a girl, I'm sorry. So, boobs thing, that's what I'm thinking of, and I'm like, oh. Reading a heavy-looking book. We just wanted to say goodnight before we turned in for the night. Oh, well, good night then, awkwardly stuttered Theodore for being caught without a shirt by one of his professors. Have you planned for what time you are getting up tomorrow morning? Nope, laughed Harry as both Severus and him waved goodnight as they exited the room. Harry closed the door softly behind them. All right, let's get into bed. I'm kind of tired myself from all that cleaning up. Harry yawned, walking hand in hand down the hallway to their room. The two got changed and did all of their nightly routine, but before sliding under the warm covers on the bed and curling up to each other. They whispered a good night and shared a few kisses before falling into a light sleep. A light sleep. Okay. Sorry, my chicken nuggets. I had severe writer's block. Anyway, I'm about to fall asleep now. Vote, comment, and everything else I normally tell you to do. And for now, peace out, my chicken nuggets. So, do we have time for 26? Oh, yeah, we got time for 26. Chapter 26, a few days later. Yes, I realize I didn't always have a chapter title. I'm unorganized sometimes. Deal with it. Yeah, they stuck out their tongue. Sorry, I had to stretch my legs. As the sun slowly rose, Harry and Severus begun to stir under their nice warm covers. A small amount of light seeped in through the side of the curtain, illuminating the otherwise dark room. The sound of birds singing their morning song and the wind blowing the branches of trees against each other softly reached their ears. Morning, Harry mumbled as he got up and went to the bathroom. Severus groaned and turned over, facing the wall and taking the warm bed sheets with him. Once Harry entered back into the bedroom and saw the sleep state Severus was in, he giggled and made his way to snuggle in and spoon Severus from behind. He wrapped his arms around his mate and laughed softly again. This time Severus stirred a little at the noise. It's amusing to see that you like this when you're normally awake at this time back at Hogwarts, Harry explained when he felt Severus's confusion through their bond. I wish you were like this more often. You're so cuddly. The last thing Harry had said definitely woke Severus. Severus shot up, crossed his arms, and sleepily pouted. I'm not cuddly, proclaimed Severus, turning his head away as he saw the smirk on Harry's face. Oh, now, Sev. Don't be like this, Harry giggled in a teasing tone, crawling forwards on the bed and sat cross-legged in front of Severus. Don't be upset at me. I love cuddling with you. I'm like a human heating rock. You always keep me warm. You're like my human heating rock. You always keep me warm at night. Harry reached forward and turned Severus's head back towards him, smiling as he saw the pouting lips still gracing Severus's face. Chuckling, Harry leaned up, brought their heads together, teasing Severus, but not touching lips. Hey, Harry whispered, bringing Severus's attention back to his eyes. I love you. Severus smirked and wrapped his arms around Harry's back, bringing them closer and sitting him on top of his lap, which meant he now had to slightly look up at him. I love you too. Severus whispered back, a twinkle in his eye. I love you so much, so remember that after I do this. Harry tilted his head in confusion as he tried to wrap his arms around what Severus had said. Wrap his head around what Severus had said. Harry studied the smug look on Severus's face, feeling a sense of mischief through the bond. Severus leaned forward as if he was going to kiss Harry, but pulled back slightly, chuckled, and then, as fast as lightning, started tickling Harry on his sides. Severus, stop tickling me! Harry yelled, becoming short short of breath instantly, flailing his arms all over the place in an attempt to stop the sudden abuse. And why would I do that? He grinned, feeling satisfied that he got his revenge for being called cuddly. For mere seconds, Severus gave in and left Harry's side alone. Finally, being able to breathe, Harry slurred out how much he disliked Severus at the point of time being moodily storming out of the room, leaving Severus to curl back onto the bed. Harry sent a message of "I love you" through the bond as he made his way downstairs into the kitchen area, deciding to make some breakfast for Theodore, Severus, and Severus, and himself. There wasn't much food in the cupboards as he decided he must go shopping once again soon. Theodore sure does not eat a lot of food for a boy his size. Harry set to work to make enough eggs, mini sausages, and bacon for the three of them, drooling over the smell as he cooked professionally and swiftly. Aw, how cute was this little chapter. Oh, crap. Fuck off, please. Please go away. Hey, hey, hey. Yes. And, okay. I hope everyone is doing well. Make sure to comment, vote, and everything else I normally tell you to do. Who can't wait for the next chapter? But for now, peace out, my chicken nuggets. Oh my gosh, it won't go to the next chapter. Son of a biatch. Uh-oh, I have 2 notifications. Something must have happened. Later that evening, the three of them were sitting in the lounge area, a comfortable silence between them as they read their own book. Harry was resting his head on Severus's lap, struggling to keep his eyes open as Severus absent-mindedly ran his fingers through Harry's hair. Theodore looked over and smiled sadly, wishing that he and his secret love could duplicate this position one day soon. Wait, he has a secret love? Ooh. Harry's hearing lulled to the side, and he jerked awake, realizing he was falling asleep on the couch. He looked around the room and saw Theodore looking at him, an expression of deep thought on his face. Harry got up, placed his book back on the bookshelf, knowing he wouldn't get any more reading done that night. As he sat down, Theodore came back to reality and placed his book away, struggling to reach the top shelf where he got his book from. Harry giggled, flicking his wrist to levitate Theodore in the air slightly, as he could slide the book into position. Theodore laughed quietly. Theodore laughed quietly as he sat back down in his armchair, looking Harry with a slight blush on his face. "Hey, Harry, I had a quick question," Theodore began quietly. "Yeah, what's up?" "Well, I was wondering, when do you think we could have the group of idiots over?" Theodore smirked as both Harry and Severus spontaneously snorted, causing laughter from all three of them. "Oh, how about we owl them tomorrow, asking them to come over the next day and stay for a day or two before we all go to Diagon Alley. Fuck y'all. God, not you guys. I mean, not you. Asked Harry, after calming himself from... yeah, and then I said y'all. I'm sorry. That's so rude of me. That sounds good, Theodore smiled, happy with the thought of seeing all of his friends soon. We should get to bed soon. It's almost 11 p.m., Severus said softly, beside Harry, closing the book. Okay, what time is it right now? It's 2:30. Okay, because my dad's contacting me. So after Harry asked Harry after whatever. Harry closing the book even softer and placing it on the coffee table beside the couch. Flicking the lamp, also sitting on the table off in the process. The three of them made their way up to the second floor, saying goodnight to each other and going into their respective rooms. Harry decided he needed a warm shower to relive the tension he had in his shoulders that had been building up from all the hard manual labor he had been doing all day long. With the water flowing at the perfect temperature, Harry stripped and slipped in, closing the glass door to prevent the water going everywhere. He washed himself before standing there, soaking in the warmth and relaxing with the feeling of the water dripping down his body. If only he could stand in there all night. But he knew he had someone waiting for him to go to bed. With barely a thought, he stepped out of the shower. He magically dried himself and dressed him, making him smile as he loved how easy he could mundane things compared to what it was like at the Dursleys. "Are you ready to come to bed now?" shouted Severus from the bedroom, voice full of drowsiness. "Heck yeah! I've been ready for an hour," Harry replied, smirking as he entered the bedroom, going straight under the sheets, cuddling up to his giant, warm, human pillow. "I love you, Harry," Severus whispered, turning the light off with a flick of his wrist. Look at the flick of the wrist. Ooh, is that too old? Oh my gosh. "I love you too, Sevy," Harry mumbled as he drifted off to sleep. Harry smiled as he gave Harry one more light kiss on his forehead. He was happy to see that Harry was finally getting enough sleep, that he was starting to have less bags under his eyes. It looked like things were getting too good to be true for them. I apologize for the lateness of this chapter. I've been pretty sick over the last couple of weeks. Shout out to Blair Cipher, who loves my stories and is an amazing person. I'm here if you want to talk. That goes to anyone who reads this. Talk to me, and you aren't alone. Make sure you comment, vote, and everything else I tell you to do. But until then, peace out, my chicken nuggets. Should I stop here? Yeah, let's make this one a little bit shorter. Okay, guys. At the end of this video, I promised to show you a video in my last one, and I'm sorry I got so busy. But in this one, I'm going to show you the video I was talking about. But I hope you really do like it. And let me see. I'm looking for one person thinks I should do the sequel to the Ben X Jeff story. I think I'm just gonna take a break from it until I calm down, because I don't want to be angry when I start the story, because if I start the story on anger, I'm going to it's not gonna end well. That's what I'm trying to get at. It's not gonna end well, and it's not gonna be fun for you guys, and and you wouldn't like that. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go on to read other stories, and after like a month or two, I'm gonna come back to it. And if you guys are okay with that, let me know. Thank you guys for watching. I really did enjoy reading this one. This one was kind of fun to do. If you hear my voice changing into an echoey thing, I'm going to my chair, and my arms hurt. Oh, my arms hurt. I'm going to have some videos at the end of this video to show what I was doing. Oh, sweet mother. Because I went book shopping. I went book shopping the other day. I picked out 6 books, and I got them for $2, so I know it's a steal, and they're really good books too. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and there's like a funny video I have to show you too. Give me a big thumbs up, and let me know down below. Do you want me to read something else? And if it's something sad, I'm not gonna read it. And if it's like the story of Draco's suicide because Harry bullied him, I'm not reading that one. I already saw someone read it, and I'm done. I cried. I bawled my eyes out. So here's what's gonna happen. Thank you guys for watching. Give this video a big thumbs up. If you haven't yet, put on subscribe and put on push notifications so you're notified every time I post. My next story for my diary. Friggin' A, what would it be? Frig. How about let's not do a diary. Let's do a Dramini. I'm going to do a Dramini, and it's a short one, so I'm going to finish it right then and there. It's called Erased Effect, and that's going to be for tomorrow. And then the day after that, it's going to be a diary again. Don't worry. It's going to be Conflicted Loyalties. So I love you guys so much. Be happy, be healthy, and always be loving. Treat people equally, and if you're going through abuse and stuff like that, go check out my diary one. It was the last part, really. I put down the hotline for suicide prevention and abuse event thing down below, because I want you guys to be safe and to love yourself, because no one deserves to be abused ever. Thank you guys for watching. Give it a big thumbs up. I love you guys so much. Bye bye. I wonder if you can see it on the thingy. The little tiny minnows. Little tiny minnows. This is a sinful book. Even it says forbidden love. But guess who it's written by? And it's called The Cardinal Sin. So we definitely know it's his personal fantasy.
What is that mysterious ticking noise? Not over here, not over there. Kind of catchy. Snipe, snipe, Severus Snipe, Snape, Snape, Severus Snape.
Dumbledore!
Snape.